Hi there, and welcome back to another episode of Paint with Sean. So today we are continuing on our Lone Mountain Tree sunset scene. So this was taken by a good buddy of mine from up on top of a big giant ski mountain. My camera got moved. Let me adjust it back over here for you. So he was up on top of a local ski mountain and took this picture and won the contest. So this is what we're painting. And if you guys are new today, I appreciate your time. And you can subscribe if you want to continue watching after today. But if you want to jump back too, this is a step-by-step painting. So we're going to show you everything from start to finish, how this comes together. So you can go through the playlist, or you can just watch individual videos to see how we really got to this place that we're at now. So we've got our big blue mountain ridge line here that we're working with. And again, when you look at snow, you wouldn't think that it looks blue, but when you have shadows from things, the light really starts to play into that. And so we do have an actual blue sort of mountain ridge, and we're going to come in today and we're going to add our trees and see how far we go with that. But we've got a good amount of trees that we're going to add in, and I really want to try to keep this to scale. So if you're doing a Bob Ross style painting, you just kind of put them in general directions and that sort of thing, because it's not trying to be an exact, but I'm really trying to put this together as close to this picture as possible. Now, it's not perfect scale, it's not perfect placement or colors or any of that kind of stuff, but it's close. I want it to look like the picture of where my buddy took this. So anyway, we're going to continue today. I've got my script liner brush, and I'm going to use this for some of the smaller, farther away trees, because they're just little touches, little tiny touches on here. And this is such a dark color that I can't blend it away. All right, so these are practically black, just about pure black, all of these trees. So I am going to tone it down just a tiny bit with some green when we get over into here, but we're going to keep it ultra dark. So it'll pretty well look like black trees. And so we really want to have some of this detail that's in here and be able to have these light spaces in between. Okay, so when we come in to do those sorts of things, some of these smaller tipped brushes, typically, you could make a tree with the fan brush, and we can do some of these that are more dark and less detailed, but these ones that are real separated, sometimes it's a little bit tougher to get those effects. And so if you're struggling with that, sometimes you can use a smaller brush and kind of detail it out a little bit more. So let's get into it here. I've got my script liner brush. Now, I want to get this wet. It doesn't need to be dripping wet, but I really, the wetter it is, the more of a fine point you can get it to come down to. So you can lay it down and really just roll it, and that will bring it out to a super fine point. And this allows you to excuse me, this allows you to create real good detail and stuff. So we even use this script liner brush to make our little lighthouse tower. I'm not quite sure, lookout tower of some sort. It's got a couple of satellites and some things going on, so that's kind of up at the top of the peak. And so today we're going to come in and just for scale purposes, I'm going to start with something that's already here. This gives us sort of a reference point within the picture over here. So I'm going to go right into my black and grab just a bit of green to flavor it a little bit. It's still going to be pretty well black, and for you guys at home, you probably won't be able to see the difference, but midnight black, pure black, really doesn't always happen. It really doesn't. You have to almost be in the dark to have a pure black. So a real dark with a little bit of coloration to it makes it look a little more realistic. So about halfway up here, we have a little tiny tree right next to our house. So we're going to come in here, and we're going to just put our little tree in here. It just kind of comes down here on the side, and this one's actually going to kind of disappear into the one in front of it, so we're just going to kind of put it in here. Okay, so this one is right here up sort of next to these. So that really actually needs to be over the house a little bit. All right. So when I paint my next one here, and it comes up a little bit closer to here. So again, I'm just kind of playing with scale, all right? Trying to get it close to where it looks like it is in the actual picture. All right. And once we get down here to the house area, it starts to darken pretty quick. Okay. So we're gonna put our thing in here. We may need to darken this up to kind of match those colors a little bit more. Okay. And again, I don't want to get too detailed yet. These are sort of far away trees. And so we're going to work right down here, and it comes down almost to this ridge line here. So we've got this little ridge line here, and just above it, we've got a little guy, let's say right here. There's a little tiny guy right there. Okay, we can see him just hanging out at the bottom. Okay, and I'm running out of color, so I'll just come back and dab back in. Okay, now our tree is going to come pretty well straight down. Okay, and this is just sort of a reference point for me. And it doesn't get too much wider here, so I'm going to turn my brush a little bit sideways. Okay, so I can get some sort of longer brush strokes going on in here. Okay, there's a little piece out right about here, and then it sort of drops in. There's a little triangular piece that comes down to sort of in here, so give myself a little bit of scale to work with, and I'm running out of ink. So again, you want this to be fairly thin, and then you can create real good detail. Okay. The thicker your paint is, the more it will blot. So if you don't want it to blot and smear and kind of be a thick effect, put a little water on your brush. Okay. So I'm just going to dip this in there a little bit and roll it in that same color I was working with. Okay. Because this paint underneath is already dry, we don't need to worry too much about connecting the pieces too much, and this thin paint will go right on top of it very easy. We won't have to worry about it blending or anything. So this will be nice for us to make a nice little set of trees. It's fairly cone shaped coming down, and I'm just adding a little bit of some individual pieces, so when you get it real thin, you can also make real thin lines. And that makes it kind of nice for stuff like this when we're trying to show a little bit of detail. Alright. Something like that. Okay. So we've got ourselves down into here, and we've got ourselves a little bit of a tree situation going on, and the good thing about this kind of stuff is it's never really perfect. Okay, so you don't have to worry about, is it exact. Trees are very free form and stuff. Okay, so I'm just going to paint the, oops, I lost my picture. Huh, there we go. So I'm going to paint the tree that's right next to it now. This one looks pretty good, fairly full. Doesn't have too much, openness to it, and we're just sort of filling this in as it looks like it is on the little thing here. Okay, so let's do the tree next to it. So again, I'm just going to dip my brush a little bit. This also makes your paint go pretty far, so you really don't have to have a ton of paint with this kind of thing, because you're really thinning it down. All right, and so again, this is almost like ink. It's really nice that way. And we're going to come in here, and this one has kind of two little spikes up next to it. The one spike is right about here. Okay. And we'll just have ourselves a little spike right there and kind of connect into this tree over here. Okay, so they kind of come together a little bit, and we'll just have two little pieces going on. And we'll have another one that's about the same height. It goes almost to the ridge line. Alright, so we'll call that one right there. And we're just going to kind of break up this line a little bit. Okay, I'm just tapping a little bit. And we're just going to come down and have our little tree shape going on. It comes down over here. Okay, so I'm just kind of tapping with this little liner brush. This is pretty well filled in over here, so I'm going to do that for the most part. You can be pretty careless when you're in the middle, okay? But when you get out to the edges, that's when you want to kind of take your time with it a little bit. So run out of ink, come back to our old drawing board, I guess. It's painting board, right? And this, you can see, maybe you can't see if you're not close enough, so you'll have to watch the video and really fine detail. But boy, you can make these very, very, very thin lines. Okay, so I'm also allowing a little bit of variation because there's going to be some kind of light and dark play as you go. All right, but not too many holes in these pieces. So we're just going to continue to add our little pieces in here, and again, I'm trying to be fairly precise within this, so I'm going to add a little bit more back of my black color in there just to add some paint back to my mix. Okay, we'll continue down on our little set of trees here and just try to, play with the scale. Okay, so the bottom of the tree sort of comes to here. Yep, about there. And it just sort of wiggles up into here. Okay. I'm just going to add some blocks of color in here. Kind of darken this up a little bit. Okay, so where these come together, it gets kind of tough to tell where one starts and the next one begins. So again, I appreciate your guys' time today. We're just coming along with our little mountain scene of a lone tree. There's a big giant tree up here on the ski hill next to us, and we really have seen that tree a bunch of times, and so my buddy really wanted to get a picture of that one day, and I said, well, maybe I can paint that. And I asked on my social media channels if people could submit some pictures for me, and this was the one that was given the most likes. So it's been a fun painting. We've been putting this together and really showing, sort of all the little pieces that come along the way with these little steps, which brush to use and how to thin the paint and where to blend things out and where to keep them, a little bit more crisp. So I'm just kind of adding some little pieces here and there, but this is mostly just black as the color. All right. So again, this is sort of a silhouette type mountain picture going on. All right. And I'm just sort of shaking my hand a little bit because trees are never really too even. All right. So Bob always, I say Bob, I expect everybody to know who Bob is. Bob Ross, this guy I really learned how to paint from. Never met him in person or anything, I just watched a lot of his videos, but boy, the guy was just fantastic at really showing you little pieces. And He always talked about people saying, "Oh, Bob, I can't paint because I got this twitch. My hands are not too steady." And boy, that kind of helps out in these little paintings where it's not really about trying to be too steady, right? If it looks too perfect, it doesn't really look like a real thing in nature. Nature's not too perfect. It sort of has some struggles and has a rough life out there. There's a lot of things that go on in the world. So we're going to continue on painting our little tree lines and just having a good old time with ourselves today. Okay, so now that we've got all of our trees in line here, we've got just one tree over here in the front that is a little bit closer. So we want to put a little bit of highlights on that, and they're very, very dark highlights. I don't think you can actually see this in the camera here, but just a little bit out here is a little bit lighter, and there's some just little bits of light that are playing through here. So I'm just going to mix together sort of a darker color of green and brown is kind of what it looks like. So again, we're sort of just playing with some color here, but I've got some of this mixed up on my palette here, and we're gonna come in here and just give it a couple of light touches. Okay, so this is not super light compared to the black that's already there. All right, it's just a little bit lighter. And we just want to give tiny bits of indication here, where are we at here, of some branches playing through here that are just a little lighter because they've got some highlights to them. All right, and that's really all we're trying to put in at the end of this painting here. Just a few little highlights, okay? Just to lighten it up a little bit and show that this is actually a little bit closer of a set of branches than the rest of what we've got going on here. So I appreciate you guys hanging out with me, learning how to paint some silhouette trees today. A lot of what we did was in time lapse, scoot you up a little bit through sort of the repetitious process, but we really focused on tiny little details in the background, and as they got closer, we sort of opened up those branches and we can see through them a little bit, and they're a little bit more broad strokes and not quite so tiny little details. Okay, we've got a few pinholes in here, and a lot of this we sort of just put what we could see, not what you would technically have. Like the trees here are sort of cut off. This edge right here is where our giant tree is going to come all the way up and through. So it's going to come up over the top over here and have a big crest and come up to the top. So we're going to get a place for that to sit on. Our next painting is going to be this white little area as a closer range of mountains with some snow on them. So that's going to be our next video. We've got ourselves a good little guideline here of where to go. But again, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me, and we'll see you in the next video.